The year 1947 was a momentous one for the Indian subcontinent. The British Raj, which had ruled India for nearly 2 centuries, was coming to an end. People across the vast territory felt a mix of hope and anxiety. The air was thick with anticipation and uncertainty, as old maps were being redrawn and new destinies were being forged. The sun was setting on a massive empire and a new dawn was awaited. This impending departure of the British was not a simple affair. It led to the painful partition of British India. 2 new independent nations were to be born, India and Pakistan. This division was based largely on religious lines, a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. Millions of people found themselves on the wrong side of newly drawn borders, leading to one of the largest migrations in human history. Amidst this grand drama of partition and nation-building, there were many smaller, yet significant stories unfolding. One such story was that of the Khanate of Kalat. Kalat was a large princely state located in the Balochistan region, a vast and rugged territory. As the British prepared to leave, the ruler of Kalat, the Khan, and his people faced a critical question. What would be their future? Would they join Pakistan, accede to India, or perhaps strive for an independent existence as they had known in some form before? The entire political landscape of South Asia was being reshaped. The Khanate of Kalat was not just another princely state within British India. It held a rather special position, a status that was quite different from many other states. This uniqueness was formally recognized and defined by the Treaty of 1876, an important agreement signed between the Khan of Kalat and the British Crown. This treaty was a cornerstone of Kalat's relationship with the British. It acknowledged Kalat as a sovereign entity, distinct from British India. The Khan was recognized as the ruler of his territory, and the British pledged to respect Kalat's independence in internal matters. Under this treaty, Kalat was not considered a part of British India in the same way as, say, Punjab or Bengal. Instead, it was an ally of the British. The British government managed Kalat's foreign affairs and defense, a common arrangement for many princely states. However, the treaty specifically affirmed that the Khan retained authority over his internal administration. The territory of Kalat itself was vast, covering a significant portion of the Balochistan region. The Khan of Kalat was thus a powerful figure, the head of a confederacy of Baloch tribes. The people of Kalat, primarily Baloch, had a strong sense of their distinct identity and history. Therefore, as the discussions about the future of India began, the Khan of Kalat, Mir Ahmad Yar Khan, and his advisors believed they had a strong case for independence. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the leader of the All India Muslim League, and the driving force behind the creation of Pakistan, played a very important role in the events concerning Kalat. In the initial stages before Pakistan was officially formed, Jinnah appeared to be quite supportive of Kalat's aspirations for independence. He had even served as a legal advisor to the Khan of Kalat on certain matters. This professional relationship perhaps gave the Khan and his representatives some confidence in Jinnah's understanding of their position and their historical claims to sovereignty. The Khan of Kalat's government even declared independence on August 11, 1947, a few days before Pakistan officially came into being. This declaration was based on the premise that, with the lapse of British paramountcy, Kalat's pre-1876 status of full independence was restored. For a brief period, it seemed as though Kalat might indeed chart its own course as a sovereign nation in a rapidly changing South Asia. As Pakistan came into existence on August 14, 1947, the political climate began to change rapidly. The initial support or understanding from Muhammad Ali Jinnah regarding Kalat's independence started to wane. The new Pakistani government, led by Jinnah as its first governor-general, faced enormous challenges. These included settling millions of refugees, establishing a functional administration, and securing its borders. In this context, the idea of a large, strategically located territory like Kalat remaining independent on its western flank became a growing concern for the Pakistani leadership. The vastness of Kalat and its potential resources were also not insignificant considerations for the new state. The strategic importance of Balochistan, where Kalat was situated, could not be overstated. For the fledgling state of Pakistan, ensuring that this region was part of its territory was seen as vital for its security and economic future. An independent Kalat, it was feared, could be vulnerable to foreign influences, or could create instability in a sensitive border region. these geopolitical considerations began to outweigh the earlier legal arguments about Kalat's treaty rights. The role of the British in the destiny of Kalat during this transitional period is a subject of much discussion and some controversy. Officially, the British policy was that with the lapse of paramountcy, the states were free to accede to either India or Pakistan, or theoretically, to remain independent. However, the practical application of this policy was often influenced by British strategic interests and their relationships with the leaders of the new dominions, particularly Pakistan in this case. Many historians argue that British officials, both in London and those remaining in the subcontinent, subtly and sometimes not so subtly, encouraged the princely states to join either India or Pakistan. For Kalat, which bordered the strategically important region of Persia, or Iran and Afghanistan, British concerns were perhaps even more acute. The Khan of Kalat, Mir Ahmad Yar Khan, certainly felt that the British did not adequately support his claim to independence despite the historical treaties. Following Pakistan's creation and Kalat's declaration of independence in August 1947, a period of intense negotiations began between Kalat and Pakistan. The Khan of Kalat was keen to secure recognition for his state's sovereignty, while Pakistan was equally determined to bring Kalat into its fold. To manage the immediate administrative and political relationship, a standstill agreement was signed between Kalat and Pakistan. This agreement was meant to maintain the status quo, allowing for discussions on the future relationship to continue. The negotiations, however, soon ran into difficulties. The Khan proposed a relationship similar to the one Kalat had with the British, where Pakistan would manage defense, foreign affairs and communications, but Kalat would retain internal autonomy. This was unacceptable to the Pakistani government, which was pushing for full accession, similar to what other princely states were signing. Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who had earlier seemed sympathetic to Kalat's unique status, now adopted a firmer line. He argued that Kalat's accession was vital for Pakistan's unity and security. The difference in viewpoints was vast, and finding common ground proved to be extremely challenging for both sides. The direct accession of Kalat's feudatory states, Karan, Las Bela and Makran, to Pakistan in March 1948 was a severe blow to the Khan's position. By late March 1948, the situation had reached a critical juncture. The negotiations between Kalat and Pakistan had completely broken down. The Pakistani government was no longer willing to countenance an independent Kalat, or any special treaty relationship short of full accession. Reports began to circulate that the Pakistan army was preparing to move into Kalat to secure its accession, adding an element of military pressure to the already tense political standoff. On March 27, 1948, the Pakistan army was indeed ordered to move into the Balochistan region, including areas of Kalat. Faced with this overwhelming pressure, and with his state already effectively fragmented by the accession of his feudatories, the Khan of Kalat, Mir Ahmad Yar Khan, felt he had very few options left. Under these circumstances, on that same day, March 27, 1948, the Khan of Kalat signed the instrument of accession, formally merging his state with Pakistan. The merger of Kalat with Pakistan in March 1948 was not the end of the story. In many ways it was the beginning of a new, often difficult chapter for Balochistan. The circumstances surrounding the accession left a lasting legacy of bitterness and mistrust among a significant portion of the Baloch population. The feeling that their aspirations for autonomy or independence were unjustly suppressed has fueled political grievances and at times armed resistance against the Pakistani state. This sense of historical injustice has been passed down through generations, becoming a central theme in Baloch nationalist narratives and shaping their identity. The promises of provincial autonomy and equitable development, which were hoped for by some at the time of accession, have, according to many Baloch leaders and activists, remained largely unfulfilled. Balochistan, despite being rich in natural resources like natural gas, minerals, and a long coastline, remains one of Pakistan's least developed provinces. Issues such as the control and distribution of revenue from these resources, lack of political representation, and alleged human rights violations have been persistent sources of tension. These contemporary struggles are often directly linked back to the perceived injustices of the 1948 merger and the subsequent treatment of the province. Reflecting on the merger of Kalat with Pakistan, the question of whether it was a fair outcome or a betrayal of Baloch aspirations remains deeply contested. From the perspective of the Pakistani state, the accession was a necessary step for national consolidation and security. Pakistan, as a new nation, was eager to establish its territorial integrity, and Balochistan's strategic location and resources were deemed vital. Leaders like Jinnah, despite any earlier leanings, ultimately prioritized the interests of the nascent Pakistani state, viewing Kalat's integration as non-negotiable for the survival and strength of the country. However, for many Baloch nationalists and historians sympathetic to Kalat's cause, the merger was anything but fair. They argue that Kalat had a legitimate claim to independence based on its historical status and the Treaty of 1876. The Khan's decision to accede, they contend, was made under immense pressure, including the threat of military action, and therefore lacked genuine consent. The votes of the Kalat State National Assembly against accession are often cited as evidence of the popular will for independence. From this viewpoint, the merger was an act of coercion that disregarded international law and the right to self-determination of the Baloch people. The legacy of Kalat's merger is one that continues to fuel debate and discontent.